everybody. This is Brett back from Love Bets in the Belfry. I wanted to start doing some VHS reviews. I have a fair amount of old VHS tapes that I've collected over the past couple of years. I've been getting into wanting to collect old things, and I'm a big fan of collecting old things, and VHS tapes is one of them. And while VHS is a dead technology that they don't print anymore, I wanted to get into doing some VHS reviews of movies I have. And today's a rainy day, so I thought a good rainy day movie for me is one that I call Donnie Darko. And Donnie Darko has been one of my favorite movies for a really long time. Personally, this movie came to me at a time in my life which was when I really needed it, and a lot of the character of Donnie Darko in this movie, a lot of stuff he says and a lot of stuff he thinks about is a lot of stuff that I felt at the time. Like I saw this first in high school, and then even shortly after high school, a lot of the stuff that the character of Donnie goes through in this movie and a lot of stuff he thinks and says really resonated with me. So therefore this movie really resonated with me for quite a while. I'm pretty sure most horror fans, or even just fans of like thriller or sci-fi type movies, this movie kind of has a little aspect of everything in there. I would most importantly say it is a coming-of-age story, but it's also a hint of time travel, sci-fi, fantasy, and it has a little bit of horror aspects, I would say. If you don't know what Donnie Darko is about, the basic plot line, there's a lot to this movie, but the basic plot line is Jake Gyllenhaal plays the character of Donnie Darko, and he's known as a paranoid schizophrenic. One night he is awakened by this voice that calls him away from his house, and he sees a giant bunny rabbit by the name of Frank in this big field, and he tells him that the world is going to end in 28 days. And therefore the next morning there's a jet engine that crashes in Donnie's room, and at first everyone thinks that Donnie is dead, but he basically cheats death and was saved by this demonic bunny rabbit named Frank. And therefore throughout the whole rest of the movie, he's basically troubled by this bunny that's telling him to do all these really bad things. And Donnie is already a pretty troubled individual, but you add a demonic bunny rabbit on top of it, like, you're gonna have some issues. A lot of it is a coming of age story, but a lot of it has a time travel aspect to it. And so, I mean, there's been a lot that's been said about this movie. There's a lot of thinking after it if you've never seen it. So after the first time watching it, you're like, I'm a little confused what exactly happened. But at its surface level, it's pretty easy to follow. I mean, it's funny, this is like, on the back of this VHS tape, it says like a psychological thriller. But I don't even really consider it that, because there's something about this movie that's very calming to me, and there's not a lot of like scary or really tense moments. I would just say towards the end there's some tense moments, and a lot of the confrontations he has with Frank is a little bit, I guess, makes you a little like, ooh, what's gonna happen? But overall, this movie has a very calm feel to it, and I've always felt that way about it. So I wouldn't really consider this a psychological thriller. It is a very psychological type movie. But just some little things about the VHS here. I bought this at a little like flea market, like near an antique mall, and they had a bunch of VHS tapes. A lot of them I didn't care about, but they had this, and I didn't own this on VHS. I have it on both DVD and Blu-ray. And I also have the soundtrack behind me right here. And yeah, so you can have it for 25 cents. So I'm like, alright, deal. And then, while this doesn't really matter to a lot of people, I love VHS tapes. And actually the VHS tape is a very pretty, like, kind of light bluish color. And actually, whoever got this, I just dropped the case. Whoever purchased this actually purchased this from a Blockbuster, because you can actually see the previewed like sales sticker, and it says Blockbuster on the back of this. But not only that, but on the side of the tape it says please remember to rewind. And that was a common phrase, is be kind, rewind VHS tapes. A lot of kids growing up now are like, what's a VHS tape? Wait, you have to rewind movies? Yeah, it's, I don't know, there's just something special about it. And the VHS look to this movie is actually pretty clear. I mean, if you have a kind of a definition TV, then even your VHS tape is going to look fairly good. But I love the look of VHS tapes, and obviously that can't ever be replicated ever again because everything is super crystal clear with definition, but it gives a very retro look to movies, obviously. And one observation I noticed in watching this on VHS is maybe it's just my television, but it felt like a lot of shots in this movie were very zoomed in, like very close up on a lot of the characters. Because watching this on both DVD and Blu-ray, and there's both a theatrical cut and a director's cut. This is obviously just the theatrical cut, but I remember seeing a lot more wide shots on both the theatrical cut and director's cut on both DVD and Blu-ray, and it just seemed like there was a lot of shots in this movie that were very zoomed in on characters' faces, where I was like, I remember there would be like a shot of two characters, but you would only see basically like all of one character and then like 1/4 of the character that was next to them. And I'm thinking, like, I remember watching this where I saw both characters like in frame, very crystal clear. There's a lot of theories that go around the internet. There's a lot of YouTube videos that explain Donnie Darko, or try to say, this is exactly what happened and everything that goes with that. I'm a fan of both the theatrical cut and the director's cut. And if you've never seen Donnie Darko, I would say obviously watch the theatrical cut first. The director's cut is just kind of a bonus thing. There's a part in this movie where Donnie receives a book called The Philosophy of Time Travel. And in the theatrical cut, you don't actually see really anything that's in the book. There's like one part with Donnie's therapist that is looking at the book, and you see like one image from it. But the thing about the director's cut of this movie is it shows a lot of the chapters from the book and the text from it. And obviously this is not a real book. This is just from the imagination of the writer and director Richard Kelly. So it's fascinating, and I'm kind of back and forth between which I like more, is the theatrical or director's cut. Like, the director's cut is generally the same movie. There's just some additional scenes, shots of, passages from the Philosophy of Time Travel book. And there's certain parts that the audio is different, or there's parts where they added audio or like ad-libbed, a character's dialogue like in post-production. And then there's stuff in the theatrical where it's just like, it shows the back of a character and like they do something and you don't hear any audio, and then you see the director's cut and it's like, oh, they added like a line for this character even though they weren't, near the camera, their back was to the camera. So there's just little nuances like that throughout. The theatrical cut, the opening credits of this movie, they play the song "The Killing Moon" by Echo and the Bunnymen, and the beginning of the director's cut, they play "Never Tear Us Apart" by NXS. So there's just little things. It's like, I'm guessing Richard Kelly was like, I just want these particular things, but I guess in the theatrical cut it was just had to be a certain way, or maybe just down the road after he thought, years down the road sitting on this movie, was like, I wish I did that instead. But the director's cut came out about 10 years after the movie was initially released. Donnie Darko originally came out in 2001 and has slowly became, a cult fan base over time, and it's a very beloved movie who those have seen it. I mean, at this time, it is October, and I wanted to review this movie, and at first glance, people are like, why are you reviewing a movie called Donnie Darko when it's not really a horror movie, or really scary for the matter? The reason is, it's actually a great October movie to watch because the entire base of the movie takes place around the month of October. Like, it starts October 2nd and then goes all the way up to the very end of October, and the end of this movie takes place at a Halloween party. So while I could say a lot about the criticism of this movie. There's not a lot I really had to criticize on it. I just wanted to talk about the VHS and how the little differences between the VHS and DVD. But I love this movie. There's certain things as time has gone on, and then I'm like, there's certain parts where I'm like, oh, that's a little bit teen angsty. And at the time when I first saw it in high school, it's like, yeah, you definitely agree with this stuff. But yeah, there's still a lot of moments that it's like it still resonates, like even if you're, you know, much older. But the character of Donnie is very likable despite how troubled he is. So this is definitely a movie I highly recommend, and recommend watching in October, because it does get you in the Halloween spirit. The great thing about the character of Donnie Darko is, despite how flawed and how troubled he is, he's still someone who wants to do the greater good in the end, or do something for the greater good. I would say most movies, time travel aspects is kind of dangerous territory, because you don't know how much your audience is going to suspend their disbelief. And for me, believe it or not, for a time travel type movie, this is probably the most grounded time travel movie, I would say. I can't really think of any others off the top of my head that are like this grounded when it comes to time travel, because a lot of this movie just plays out as like a coming of age story, like a drama, and like it's not like Back to the Future where it's like funny and stuff. Like it's very grounded in reality, despite how wild like the premise is. Like a giant bunny, time traveling bunny rabbit comes to haunt a guy, and everyone thinks like he's schizophrenic and he does all these bad things because of it, and he learns how to time travel. Like, surprisingly, it's very grounded. So this was a fun time to watch on VHS. So yeah, watch Donnie Darko if you haven't in the month of October, and it'll get you in the Halloween spirit a little bit. And despite how different it is of a movie, it's outside of your normal slasher scary movies. But yeah, this is one I always recommend to people who like to watch something and think about it long afterwards. So I find something new every time I watch Donnie Darko again. So this was a good time. I got a lot out of it, you know, despite rewatching it for like the 40th time, I would say. But yeah, this is a good VHS, and yeah, buy more VHSs. Just, it's needed. Like, you can say how much technology is dead, but I don't know, there's something special about watching some on VHS, just like there's something special about going to like a drive-in or seeing a movie on 35mm film rather than, you know, digital film. I don't know. There's just always something new to be had. Like even some of your favorite movies, if you watch it on a different format, I don't know, there's something special about it. So watch Donnie Darko, and that's about all I have for today. So please be kind and rewind. Watch more VHS tapes. Watch 35mm stuff. I mean, watch stuff on Laserdisc if you have it. But yeah, my name is Brett, and that's about all I have for today. If you like this video, like it, and share some of your stories of what you think of Donnie Darko, and if you love the movie as much as I do, or if you hate the movie, let me know why you hate it. And I will see you all in a future video. Thanks for watching. Bye.